The grocery bag slips from my hands before I fully grasp what I'm witnessing. The marinara jar shatters on my new tile floor, red sauce splattering across the pristine white surface like blood at a crime scene. For 3 heartbeats, I stand frozen in my doorway, keys still dangling in my hand. My sister and mother are inside my cottage. My cottage, which I shared photos of just 3 days ago. My cottage, whose address I deliberately kept private. What are you doing here? My voice feels hollow, distant. Liana spins around, a measuring tape stretched between her hands. She's been sizing up the guest bedroom, my home office, her face briefly startled before settling into that irritatingly entitled expression. Posy, you're back early. Mom straightens from rearranging my armchair and sofa, forming a layout I despise. We thought you'd be at work until 5. That doesn't answer my question. I step over the spreading pool of sauce, my shoes sticking slightly to the tiles. How did you get in here? Mom waves a hand dismissively. Oh, I had a key copied yesterday when I stopped by to congratulate you. The memory surfaces instantly. Mom asking to use the bathroom during her brief visit, her purse oddly left behind as she walked down the hall. At the time, I didn't think much of it. You copied my keys without asking. The tremor in my voice catches me off guard. Don't be so dramatic, honey, Mom says, fluffing a throw pillow. We're just figuring out how to make this work for everyone. Make what work? The question forms but stays unspoken because suddenly I understand. The realization hits me like a physical blow. Childhood memories flash. Liana's 11th birthday with a hired clown and backyard carnival, while mine that same year was just a store-bought cake in the living room. Mom's dismissive voicey, it's just not in the budget for you. Always contrasted with lavish spending for my sister. The pattern never stopped. When I shared I was house hunting last month, Mom didn't congratulate me. She called Liana right away to discuss opportunities. This is my home, I say, each word sharp as ice. Not yours, not ours, mine. I walk to Liana and take the spare key from her hand, where she's been fidgeting with it. Her fingers clench briefly, then let go. You can't seriously plan to live here alone, Liana says, her forehead creasing with that practiced concern. This place has 3 bedrooms. The kids need space. Your housing situation isn't my problem, I reply. The steadiness in my voice surprises me. After everything we've done for you. Mom's eyes widen, her hand pressed dramatically to her chest. Your sister's children need bedrooms. Family helps family, Posy. You know that. The familiar weight of obligation presses down. A lifetime of expectations that I'll sacrifice for Liana because that's what I've always done. But something shifts inside me. The trembling in my hands stops as clarity washes over me. You have 2 minutes to leave before I call the police, I say, pointing to the door, my arms steady. You wouldn't dare, Mom snaps, her voice sharpening. 1 minute, 50 seconds. They leave, Mom slamming the door hard enough to rattle the windows. 20 minutes later, as I'm scrubbing marinara from the grout, the phone rings. Dad's name flashes on the screen. What the hell are you doing? His voice booms when I answer. Your mother's in tears. You're tearing this family apart with your selfishness. I say nothing, scrubbing harder at a stubborn stain. Liana needs help, Posy. That's what family does. You've always understood that. Always understood. Always accommodated. Always sacrificed. Not anymore, I whisper. But he's still shouting, not listening. After I hang up, I stare at the family photo on my mantle. Mom, Dad, Liana with her perfect husband and 3 kids, and me, slightly off-center, wearing the strained smile I've carried my whole life. For the first time, I see us clearly, see the pattern of sacrifice I've been conditioned to accept. I set the frame face down on the shelf. This house is mine, this life is mine, and I'm done giving pieces of it away. A day later, a Facebook notification pings while I sip my morning coffee. A rare moment of peace 3 days after the marinara incident. Liana's tagged me in something. I tap the icon, expecting another passive-aggressive family photo with me awkwardly positioned at the edge. What I find stops my breath. A post from 3 weeks ago, before I'd even closed on my cottage, shows Liana's 3 children squeezed into their shared bedroom. The caption reads, "Kids are finally getting a bigger place soon. Blessed. Family first." My thumb hovers over the screen as I scroll to the comments. "Which bedroom does Ellie get?" asks one of Liana's friends. Liana's replied, "The blue one with the bay window. Jack and Tyler will share the room across the hall. Mom thinks the 3rd bedroom should stay a guest room for Aunt Carol's visits." My coffee mug slips, splashing hot liquid across my bare feet. I barely feel the burn. 3 weeks ago, they were planning this before I'd even signed my mortgage papers. I bolt to the bathroom, my stomach churning as the magnitude hits. This wasn't a spur of the moment idea after seeing my house. This was calculated. Planned. They'd been strategizing to take over my home before I'd even bought it. My phone buzzes with a text as I rinse my mouth. It's Dad, but he's accidentally included me in a group message meant for Mom and Liana. Don't worry about Puzzy's tantrum, Mom writes. She'll give in once you're settled. She always does. The shaking starts in my hands and spreads until my whole body trembles against the cool bathroom tile. She always does. 3 words that sum up my entire life. The next evening, a family dinner invitation arrives via text. We need to talk about a solution, Dad writes. Your mother's making pot roast. 7 p.m. I should refuse. Every instinct screams to stay away, but some small, hopeful part of me wonders if maybe they've reconsidered. When I arrive, the table is set with Mom's good china. Dad, Mom, and Liana sit clustered on one side, an empty chair waiting for me on the other. The division couldn't be clearer if they'd drawn a line down the middle. Posy, Mom says, her smile tight. We're so glad you could join us. Before I can respond, Dad slides a manila folder across the table. We've found the perfect solution. Inside are printouts of 5-bedroom houses, all within 2 miles of Liana's kids' school. Each listing is annotated with notes like perfect playroom and good backyard for the kids. These are lovely, I say carefully, for Liana and Mark. Dad clears his throat. For all of you. Together. We've already talked to your bank, Mom adds, stirring her iced tea. Transferring your mortgage to a different property is quite simple. The price difference would be manageable if everyone contributes. My mouth goes dry. You contacted my bank, just preliminary discussions, Mom says, waving off my concern like an annoying fly. Your furniture won't all fit, of course. Liana chimes in, but we could sell the extra pieces. We'll need space for the kids' bunk beds. The front door opens and Mark strolls in late as usual. He nods at me before turning to Dad. I was thinking about the garage spaces. The left side would work better for my truck if Posy doesn't mind parking on the street. The casual way they're dividing my property, a home they've never contributed to, leaves me speechless. My hands curl into fists beneath the table. Puzzy, Dad says, his voice dropping into the serious tone he used when I was a child and had disappointed him. Refusing to help would show you don't really care about being part of this family. Mom reaches across the table, not quite touching my hand. Think about your relationship with your nieces and nephew. Children remember who was there for them. Everyone knows family comes first in this town, Liana adds, her eyes narrowing. What would people think if they knew you had all that space while your sister's kids are crammed into one room? The weight of their expectations presses against my chest. For years, my identity in this family has been Liana's supportive sister, never just Posy, with my own dreams and needs. I spoke with Robert at your office, Dad mentions casually, as if he hasn't just crossed another boundary. He understands your family crisis might require some flexibility in your schedule to help Liana with the move. After all we've done, Mom adds, her voice trembling with practiced emotion, providing a home for you all those years. The memory surfaces, writing rent checks every month during college while living in their basement, watching them pay Liana's full tuition and apartment costs without question. The silence stretches as they wait for my surrender. The familiar script Posy protests, family pressures, Posy gives in. She always does. But something has shifted since finding them in my house. The pattern is suddenly clear, like a magic eye picture snapping into focus after years of seeing only random dots. I stand, carefully placing my napkin beside my untouched plate. Watch me not help, I say, my voice steadier than I feel. I walk out, ignoring their calls to come back, their demands to sit down and be reasonable. In my car, the phone buzzes with texts and calls. I switch it to silent. As I drive home that night, my phone lighting up with angry messages, I wonder if standing my ground is worth potentially losing my family. Should I hold this boundary at all costs, or find some compromise that wouldn't fully sacrifice my independence? The house is mine, but is complete separation the only way to protect it? The thought of compromise flickers and dies as I recall the Facebook post. They never intended to ask, they planned to take. Some boundaries can't be partial, Sometimes the only protection is a wall. 3 days after the dinner ambush, notifications ping my phone like tiny explosions, each one jarring me from whatever fleeting peace I've found. I make the mistake of checking Leanna's latest Facebook post. Her kids squeezed onto a pull-out sofa, faces arranged in exaggerated pouts. The caption reads, "When family abandonment means your kids don't have proper bedrooms. Family first. Unless you're selfish, apparently." My stomach twists as I scroll through sympathetic comments. People I've known since childhood offer prayers and support. 3 church ladies promise to talk to me about Christian family values. My finger hovers over the reply button, but what could I say that wouldn't fuel the fire? A text from Mrs. Hatcher, my 3rd-grade teacher, buzzes through. "Your mother showed me pictures of your beautiful home. So much space for just one person. I raised 4 kids in half that size." I set the phone face down on my kitchen counter, gripping the edge until my knuckles whiten. The betrayal burns like acid, not just from Liana, who I've come to expect this from, but from Mom, plastering photos of my house online with captions about forgetting your roots and success going to your head. The doorbell rings, sending my heart rate soaring. Through the peephole, I see Pastor Williams on my doorstep, Bible under his arm. "This isn't random, it's a coordinated attack. I'm sorry, I'm not available for visitors today," I call through the door. "Posey Adams, I've known you since Sunday school," he replies. "Your family's concerned, and as your spiritual advisor." I didn't request spiritual advice, I interrupt, surprising myself with the firmness in my voice. "Please respect my privacy." His sigh carries through the door. "I'll pray for your heart to soften." After he leaves, I sit at my kitchen table and list everything that's happened since I threw my family out of my house a week ago. The scale of their retaliation is growing clearer and more frightening. Yesterday, I found the first concrete evidence of how far they're willing to go. My mortgage statement hadn't arrived, so I called the bank. "We've been sending it to your updated address," the representative said. "Your parents contacted us about forwarding your financial documents to their home for safekeeping." The violation leaves me breathless. They nearly succeeded. If I hadn't been vigilant about my payments, what else might they have diverted? What other parts of my life are they quietly commandeering? Sleep is nearly impossible now. I lie awake cataloging vulnerabilities, jumping at every creak outside my windows. Checking the mail each day fills me with dread. What new boundary have they crossed? What fresh guilt trip awaits? This morning, I received an email from my homeowners association. My parents had contacted them with concerns about commercial activity at my address. A complete fabrication, but one requiring me to submit formal documentation proving I only occasionally work from home, not run a business. The cost of this estrangement keeps rising, but the alternative, a lifetime of being seen as nothing more than Liana's support system, feels unbearable now that I've tasted freedom. I start small, changing passwords, setting up mail forwarding to my workplace, installing security cameras at every entrance. I document every unwanted contact, every social media post, every attempt to access my personal information. The methodical process steadies my shaking hands. When the security company finishes installing my new system, I feel a strange mix of sadness and relief. My home, meant to symbolize my independence, now feels like a fortress. The next morning, a small miracle appears on my desk at work: a loaf of homemade bread wrapped in brown paper, a note tucked beneath the twine. "Sorry I blabbed about your new place. Not everyone thinks you're wrong. Some of us wish we'd been brave enough to set boundaries years ago. Marcy." I hadn't realized how isolated I felt until that small gesture brought tears to my eyes. The moment of peace is brief. That evening, I pull into my driveway to find Liana's SUV parked out front. Through my front window, I see shadows moving inside my house. The familiar surge of violation is joined by something new, cold, crystalline anger. This time, I don't hesitate. I call the police from my car, watching as neighbors peek from behind curtains at the unfolding scene. By the time the officer arrives, my family has noticed me in the driveway. They spill onto the porch, Mom's face twisted with self-righteous indignation, Dad's reddened with anger, Liana clutching her purse like a shield. She's throwing her own family onto the street. Liana cries dramatically as the officer approaches. "We were just visiting." "With what key?" I ask calmly, showing the officer my security camera footage on my phone. "I didn't give you permission to enter my home." Mom steps forward, eyes darting to the gathering neighbors. How could you call the police on your own blood? What will people think? Something shifts inside me. That question, what will people think, which has controlled my life, suddenly feels absurdly irrelevant. I don't care what they think, I say, my voice steady. I care what I think, and I think this ends today. The officer escorts them off my property with a trespassing warning. As they drive away, I realize something profound. I've spent my life afraid of disappointing my family, measuring my worth by their approval. But I've never considered how consistently they've disappointed me, how little they've valued my independence, my choices, my right to a life not defined by what I can give them. The next day, Dave, a college friend who's now a family lawyer, helps me draft a formal cease and desist letter. They're counting on your guilt, he says as we review the document. They've weaponized it your whole life. When Liana shows up at my workplace the following week, eyes swollen from theatrical tears, my coworkers form an unexpected protective barrier. Marcy intercepts her at the front desk. 2 others join me for lunch when Liana tries to ambush me in the parking lot. The contrast is stark. These people, who owe me nothing, respect my boundaries without question, while my family, who should protect me, tramples every line I draw. With each day my voice grows stronger. No becomes easier to say. This doesn't work for me flows without apology. I've made my decision no longer feels like a betrayal. At home, I change all the locks, upgrade my security system with door cameras that send alerts to my phone. I gather financial records, text messages, social media posts, a paper trail documenting years of exploitation. The folder grows thick with evidence I hope never to need but feel safer having. A notification pings during a meeting 2 days later. The doorbell camera shows Mom on my doorstep, trying a key in my lock while glancing nervously over her shoulder. The key doesn't work. I've changed the locks twice since the last confrontation. Her expression darkens as she tries again, then pulls another key from her purse. My heart pounds as I watch the footage. This isn't over. This is just beginning. Sunday afternoon, I assemble evidence like puzzle pieces on my dining room table. Every trespass, every manipulation, every lie documented with precision. The security camera footage plays on my laptop, showing Mom trying 3 different keys in my door while I was at work. I add the timestamp to my spreadsheet, feeling satisfaction rather than guilt. This looks comprehensive, Dave says, adjusting his reading glasses as he reviews my documentation. My lawyer friend has squeezed me into his Sunday, bringing the scent of coffee and legal pads into my living room. The cease and desist letter should be ready tomorrow. Will you be okay delivering it yourself? I need to do this myself, I reply, adding the mortgage company's call recording to a labeled folder. The representative's voice still echoes. We spoke with someone claiming to be your mother about transferring your mortgage. We informed her it wasn't possible without your authorization. My therapist Judith's advice guides me. Document, don't engage. Facts, not emotions. Boundaries, not arguments. Monday morning, I place the certified letter in Mom's hands. She doesn't open it, just stares at me with wounded eyes, as if I've betrayed her by protecting myself. You'll regret this, she whispers but takes the envelope. 3 days pass in blessed silence. No calls, no texts, no unexpected visits. I sleep through the night for the first time in weeks. Thursday brings the inevitable escalation. I'm reviewing code at my desk when Marcy from accounting appears, eyes wide. Your parents are in the lobby, she whispers. They told reception your sister was in an accident and need you immediately. Cold dread washes over me until I see Liana's text from 2 minutes ago, complaining about her kids' school lunches. I find my parents arguing with the receptionist, Mom dabbing at dry eyes with a tissue while Dad demands I be brought out. Family emergency, he barks. Her sister's been hurt. I just texted with Liana, I say, stepping into view. My voice stays steady despite the tremor in my hands. She's fine. Mom drops the tissue. Posey! Thank goodness. We've been so worried. Miss Adams. My boss appears beside me, her expression neutral. Is everything all right? Dad tries his charming smile. Family matter. We'll just borrow Posey for a bit. My family appears to be lying about a medical emergency to disrupt my workday. I tell my boss, loud enough for the reception area to hear. I apologize for the disturbance. Security escorts them out while I return to my desk, ignoring the stares. That evening, I discover Liana's latest attack, a GoFundMe titled Housing Crisis. Help my children have a home with my photo prominently featured. One email to the platform's legal department citing unauthorized use of my image, and the campaign vanishes by morning. Dad's voicemail that night slips from rage to accidental truth. You ungrateful little. Do you know what you've done? We had it all planned. We were going to move in whether you liked it or not, and now you've embarrassed your mother in front of. I saved the recording with a grim smile. When my company announces an opening at their Colorado Springs branch, I weigh a promising opportunity against running from conflict. Would moving mean letting them win? Or is it my chance for a fresh start beyond their reach? My support system rallies like a protective wall. Dave sends a formal warning to my family, outlining legal consequences for continued harassment. Judith helps me craft factual responses that avoid their emotional bait. My boss offers flexible hours during this transitional period, her eyes knowing but never pitying. Your house needs better security, says Tara, my realtor friend, walking my property's perimeter. Motion sensing lights here and reinforce this back door. I'd expected to feel alone in this fight. Instead, I've found allies who value my boundaries and recognize my family's toxicity. The tide begins to turn. Aunt Susan calls, hesitantly asking for the other side of the story. Cousin Mike messages that he doesn't think it's right what they're asking. Even Leanna's perfect social media campaign backfires when friends comment, "Why can't you and Mark support your own family?" And, "Isn't Posey single? Why should she house your kids?" Their facade is cracking, revealing the selfishness beneath. The job offer letter arrives Friday afternoon. Colorado Springs branch manager glows on my screen like a beacon. Something loosens in my chest, possibility perhaps, or freedom. For the first time in weeks, I smile without reservation. A week later, a cherry pie sits on my kitchen counter like a crimson trap. Mom stands beside it, fingers tapping the granite in that familiar rhythm of impatience when I don't immediately agree to her plans. "It's your favorite," she says, though cherry has always been Leanna's preference, not mine. I've corrected her on this at least 20 times. Her eyes keep flicking to the security camera near my entryway. The blinking red light seems to unnerve her, which gives me a small measure of satisfaction. "I think we got off on the wrong foot," Mom says, her voice unnaturally pleasant. She's rehearsed this. I can tell by the way she shifts her weight, like before parent-teacher conferences when I was young. "Your father and I have been thinking, and we've come up with the perfect compromise." I wasn't aware we were negotiating, I say, keeping the kitchen island between us like a necessary barrier. Mom pulls a folder from her oversized purse. "We found some lovely properties just 15 minutes from here. 5 bedrooms, plenty of space." She slides glossy listings toward me. "You sell this cottage. We all move into one of these. There's even a mother-in-law suite for Leanna's family." I flip through the listings, noting prices triple what my cottage cost. And how would this work financially? "Well, you'd get the master bedroom, of course," she says, smiling as if offering a tremendous gift. "We've already toured 3 of them." The realtor was very accommodating when we explained the situation. "You toured houses in my name." The calm in my voice surprises me. Mom waves dismissively. "We needed to move quickly. The Henderson's daughter is looking in that neighborhood too." She leans forward, voice lowering. "Listen, Posey, if you're going to be difficult, we can always contest the ownership. You couldn't possibly have afforded this place without family help." Family help. The words taste bitter. You mean the rent I paid during college while living at home, or the student loans I'm still paying off while Leanna's education was fully funded? Mom's face hardens. "Don't be ungrateful." I walk to my office without responding, returning with an envelope. I place it on the counter beside her untouched pie. "What's this?" She doesn't reach for it. "It's a job offer from our company's new Arizona branch," I say, pushing it toward her. "I accepted it last week." Her hand freezes mid-tap. "Arizona?" "I'm selling the cottage," I add, watching her face brighten before continuing, "and moving to Tucson next month." The color drains from her face. "But what about Leanna? Her housing situation isn't my concern." I open a drawer and pull out a thick manila folder. I've been gathering some interesting documentation. I spread the contents across the counter, financial records showing my rent payments during college, alongside Leanna's fully funded education. Birthday expenditure comparisons, thousands spent on her celebrations versus the bare minimum for mine. Loan papers for the cars they bought her while I saved for my used Honda. What is this supposed to be? Mom's voice loses its rehearsed quality. Evidence, I say, pulling out my phone. And here's security footage showing 17 unauthorized entry attempts on my property. She stares at the screen, watching herself and Leanna testing keys in my lock, peering through windows, even bringing a locksmith who refused the job. I'm not running away, I say, gathering the papers. I'm running towards something better, a life where I'm valued, not just useful. Your father will be furious, she whispers, but there's new uncertainty in her voice. I'm counting on it. 3 days later, I arrive at my parents' house for what they've called a family meeting to resolve the housing situation. The driveway is full, my aunt's car, my cousin's SUV, even my grandmother's ancient book. The gang's all here to witness my surrender. I take a deep breath, folder tucked under my arm. The living room conversation halts when I enter. Leanna sits between my parents on the couch, a united front. The extended family forms a loose semicircle, an audience for the performance. There she is, Dad says, standing with a forced smile. We were just about to explain our solution to everyone. Actually, I say, my voice carrying across the silent room, I have an announcement first. I place my folder on the coffee table, opening it to reveal the listing for my cottage, professional photos, a bright red, for sale, banner across the top. My house goes on the market Monday, I say, and I've accepted a position with our company's Arizona branch. I'm moving next month. The silence stretches for 3 heartbeats before Leanna's shriek breaks it. But what about us? Where are we supposed to go? I meet her gaze steadily. The same place you've been living. The same place you'd still be if you hadn't tried to take what's mine. Dad stands, face reddening. This is how you abandon your family, after everything we've done for you. Everything you've done. I pull out copies of my documentation, passing them to my grandmother and aunt. Here's a record of what you've actually done. Different rules for different daughters, different support, different expectations. My aunt's eyes widen as she scans the papers. You made her pay rent during college while paying for Leanna's apartment. It built character! Dad snaps, but his confidence wavers as more family members examine the evidence. You should see the security footage, I add, loud enough for all to hear. Them trying to break into my house while I'm at work. Calling my mortgage company, pretending to be me. Creating a GoFundMe claiming I'm in financial distress. Grandmother's hand covers her mouth. Is this true? My parents' silence answers for them. As I drive home that evening, my phone buzzes with texts, not from my parents or Liana, but from my aunt, cousins, grandmother. Words of support. Questions about whether they've been misled about other family matters over the years. Cracks in the family mythology are beginning to show. 2 days later, my realtor calls with news that feels like both victory and farewell. You've got an offer already, she says. The $20,000 over asking cash with a 30-day close. I'll take it, I tell her without hesitation. One more thing, she adds. Do you want to keep the spare keys, or should I discard them? I think of all the keys copied without my permission, all the boundaries crossed. Discard them, I say. I won't need them where I'm going. As I hang up, I hear whispers that my parents have already approached my cousin Thomas about his guest house. The cycle continues, but without me. I wonder briefly if any relationship with my family can be salvaged after I move, whether distance might allow healing. But that's a question for another day. Today, I have boxes to pack and a new life to build, one that's entirely my own. A year later, morning sun streams through windows without curtains because I haven't chosen a style yet. My furniture sits where I placed it, not where someone else decided it should go. The wall by my desk is filled with photographs, me atop a Colorado mountain, shaking hands with the CEO after my promotion. Standing proudly in front of this house on closing day. Not one picture includes my family. My phone rests on the counter, its screen occasionally lighting up with notifications. A year ago I'd have lunged for it, heart racing at the possibility of another accusation or demand. Now, I glance at it with casual indifference. Unknown numbers go to voicemail, as do several familiar ones. Outside, through the kitchen window, my garden glows in the morning light. Rows of basil, thyme, and rosemary, herbs Mom always said would overwhelm her delicate palate, thrive in neat beds. Bright orange marigolds border the walkway, Their pungent scent a childhood favorite. I was never allowed to plant near the house. Too common, Mom said when I was 10. We're putting in roses instead. I bite into a fresh strawberry from my patch and smile at the sweetness. The doorbell rings at noon. Friends file in with gift bags and platters, their faces bright with genuine joy to see me. No one has an agenda beyond celebration. Happy birthday, Posey, calls Elaine, my colleague turned friend, setting down a bakery box. Apple pie, as requested. Not cake, asks Thomas, a coworker who drove 2 hours to be here. I've always preferred pie, I answer, the simple truth filling me with unexpected satisfaction, especially apple. For decades, I blew out candles on chocolate cake because Liana loved it. Mom always said making 2 desserts was wasteful when we could share. Elaine arranges candles on the pie as I pour wine into glasses, stemware I chose because I liked it, not because it matched someone else's taste. What should we toast to? Asks Sophia, the neighbor who brought me homemade bread when I moved in. To building homes, not just houses, I say, raising my glass, and to the family we choose. The words settle warmly in my chest as we clink glasses. Near my door, a simple wooden key hook holds just one key, mine. No spares hidden for emergencies, no copies held by anyone else. Later, after everyone leaves, I think about Jared, the new engineer at work. Yesterday, I saw him shrinking as our project manager dismissed his ideas. The posture hit me like a punch, the same way I used to make myself smaller around my family. Actually, I'd said, interrupting the manager, Jared's approach could save significant testing time. Let's hear more. The gratitude in his eyes mirrored my own reflection the day I stood up to my family. My phone buzzes with a text from Michael, the landscape architect I've been seeing for a month. He respects my boundaries with a reverence that once felt foreign but now feels right. Still on for hiking Saturday, I smile as I reply, absolutely. Before bed I scroll through my phone gallery and pause at an old family photo, everyone grouped tightly, me slightly out of frame as usual. After a moment I delete it, replacing it with a picture of my front door, painted the bold red I always wanted. My cousin Brenda texts occasionally now. Last week, my uncle called to check in. These tentative connections with extended family happen on my terms, with clear boundaries they've learned to respect. As I settle into bed in my quiet house, I wonder if complete separation from my parents and Liana was necessary for healing, or if someday I could rebuild limited contact on my terms. What would you do? Maintain the distance that brought peace, or attempt a new, balanced relationship from the ashes of the old? For tonight, I'm content with the life I've built, one where every choice, from garden herbs to the friends around my table, reflects who I truly am.